Bismillah. Thank you and welcome. This is Arabic calligraphy class. We're calling in from Princeton. This is awesome. I'm very excited and I honor you for making it to the class. And this is what we're going to be dealing with, calligraphy pens. So welcome aboard. Get your pen and popcorn ready. So we're going to dive deep into it. You're looking at a calligraphy pen with chiseled or etched nib. So you can kind of see that it's 30 degrees, slightly chiseled nib. It's something similar on Sharpie pens, if you've seen it, or if you look at the brushes, if you have any background in painting, I'm sure you've seen a brush. This is not a broomstick, folks. It's a brush. So you see it, it has that etched, chiseled area, and this is how you perform calligraphy. You perform calligraphy by putting that nib, I'm showing you brush here, down on paper, um, fully down. So it's all of the nib is making contact with the paper. And that's one of those big things that I want to emphasize when you are doing that. To make sure the pen is hugging the paper, and or you want to call it kissing a paper. You want to do it that way because that's one of the few mistakes people make. So let's get started. So this is my metal nib, and just to show you how I'm going to be holding the pen here. I'm holding it with my left hand. The, the nib stays in the same place. It's approximately at, if you have that tip, the tip is pointing towards like 1 o'clock on a dial, on a clock. And those of you who are still on the sidelines, get your pen out, get ready for it, because you cannot learn calligraphy watching a video. So make sure you have your pen out. So let's get started. So here we're using a 3 millimeter calligraphy pen. We don't have to dip into ink. It's just easier this way. I try to minimize the learning curve here. So I found that over the years that if we use these pen, people could just start doing calligraphy rather than cutting their fingers, trying to cut the pens with bamboo sticks and all that. So I'm trying to just warm up my hand here. No jumping jacks needed, no push-ups. Just simply, um, getting a feel for the paper and pen. Just draw some lines. You could call these Alifs. It's getting better as I'm doing more practice. So, get started with a pen and don't worry about the details as of yet. Here, I want to point out the graph paper will really help us in getting straight lines. So graph paper is one of those essentials that I really like to point out, that I found out that students do so much better if you have these papers. So if you're able to get a graph paper, that's okay. That's great. If you're not able to, straight line, that would be okay as well. Now, what I'm practicing here is I'm trying to show you some of the mistakes that people do. So, cross out here indicates a wrong action. And I could tell that the nib is in the wrong position. You see how horizontal that pen looks? So I'm actually trying to show you the right way. Now that's the extreme opposite, the other. So this indicates the thick and thin lines that you could create. The left one is thick line, the right one's thin, but they're both wrong. The truth lies somewhere in between, or actually like it's pointing towards like more 30 degrees or 45 degrees. That's the way you hold the pen, and you're more than likely most of the time you're going to hold a pen that way. Now look at the Alif on that template that I have on top. You could see it how etched it is, and similarly we want to create an Alif that looks just like that. Okay, not too curved. This one got curved a little bit. And then you could see sometimes I have this paper underneath my hand. That's just, in calligraphy, you don't want to smear things. with the sweaty palms or something like that. So you could just put that paper underneath. If you like deodorants work too, your preference. So I'm warming up here. So you saw those horizontal strokes if you're holding the pen straight. Those would be the thickest lines that you would produce, and the vertical strokes should be thin as indicated here. So these are just, again, warm-up exercises, no push-ups or pull-ups, just getting started with calligraphy. One of the best things you'll do is doing the dots. If you could do diamond-shaped dots, that means you're a pro. As you can see, I'm struggling. So diamond-shaped dots really is a big thing, and we'll come back to it, how two dots should be always together, the two dots in that and the letter yeah. But let's continue. And I will pull out some of these from time to time. I will show you all of the work that has been done by students. This is my Arts Council of Princeton students. Most of them were 8th graders, I think 5th to 8th graders. And this is Evan's work. And Evan was, he worked with us all summer on calligraphy. This is like his starting day. And you could see, and it's a bigger marker that he has, but you can see the etched Alifs, which is pretty cool. Here it got away from him, it got a little thinner, but it was kind of too long. So again, Evan's work is here. He actually wrote his names backward because he was thinking it's EVAN kind of thing. I actually thought his name was Noah, but then he told me though it was Evan. So funny story. Anyways, so this is a little bit smaller, but you could see the chiseled and etched calligraphy Alif, which is pretty cool. I want to introduce a couple of more calligraphy by my students. This work is by Liz, and you could see like she's done a great job, especially that left Alif. Let's go into take a look at another one. So let's take a look at some of these letters, starting with Alifs. These look a little thin, and I think they're a little too long. I feel like they're a little too long, but he's done a good job keeping it straight line. Um, so that's a good thing. But it should be, the pen should be a little on an angle, so it would have he would have a little bit of thicker lines, and I think you should stop on the 3rd or 4th box. So let's see here. That should be the length of the letter. At this point, I want you to continue calligraphy as well. Keep practicing, keep observing, and come up with about 50 alifs and put the star on the best one that you have. Okay, so are you ready? So alif was simple. Now let's look at the next template, the letter ba. So first, I'm going to go down a little, and if you look at it, this is like a little bit longer than a dot. And then you have the horizontal line, and then the third part is to go back up. Now the two dots I had talked about, this is a mark of a professional, keeping the dots together, as opposed to separating the dots into two, separate areas. So the ba is with one dot underneath, da is with two dots, and tha is with three dots. So first thing first, smaller nukta that's stretched out, then a horizontal line, and I'm spacing it so you can see it better, and a smaller thin tail. And this is lower than that, generally speaking. The letter could be slightly um, on an angle, kind of going downhill. That's fine. That's accepted. This is a Naskh calligraphy that we're practicing. So you could do that, or you could indicate that. That's fine. So the dot goes underneath, square dot. And let's continue with this one. So let's practice more. Step one, step two, and then goes up a little bit longer. And so you have the template. We're using the 3mm pen. So, and this template will be provided to you. It should be in your course material. So you could find that in there. Yeah, keep practicing. You should be moving your hand and just relax. I know it looks simple when I do it for some people, but you'll get it. You'll get there. Just make sure the pen is touching the paper, and make sure that you do not make the following mistakes. Okay, so here is what's going on. Most of the people, they're not able to put the entire nib on the paper, so they're only using part of the nib, and so it looks like they're using a ballpoint or something like that. No, you have to make sure that you put the thick part as you drew the line with the paper. Okay, so look at the top. That's how it should, the alif, the ba should be the letter ba, ba. And some people are holding it horizontal, like how I'm holding it right there. And if they draw the dot, it would look like a big square. And look at the handles for the ba. That's a no-no. That means they're holding their pen wrong. Here, it's just not enough paper to pen or nib hugging the paper. And here I wanted to show you that we have to make sure that this is a thick line and this is a fine line. Okay, and in the middle is a horizontal thick line. Now this is what I call a fishbowl problem, and sometimes this is a third common mistake. The depth of the ba, right, is just too much. It almost looks like, I don't know, some form of a bowl where it's so large that it's not even a ba anymore. You could actually like put a sailboat in there and just go out there, holler. Anyone there? Because this is not my ba. Ba. All right, let's get back to the lesson. Sorry about that. I got away. But this is wrong. Okay, just don't do that. That's my point. So some of the common mistakes: make sure it's not the pen is touching the paper. You're not holding the pen horizontally, and this is not too deep. All right, so let's go to some examples and common mistakes. Here I have my student has done quite a remarkable job making some jalebis. I don't know if you know that, but he's just great. I look at the nuktas; they're so good. But try not to bring the two ends too close together. Keep them separated. So here's another example of it. This one indicates the right side and the left side remarkably close. The nib is much bigger, as you can see it, but keep these sides open and pointing towards towards the heavens or the sky. Very nice job. So I do want to discuss this one particular issue that a lot of people tend to have. You saw the two examples had the nuktas or the dots. They were just awesome, right? Some people have this, like they would separate these two dots and they think this is a letter ta. But what they're actually doing, that they're indicating their own disposition as a happy person, and that is indicated with their writing or calligraphy of the letter ta. All right, I digress. Um, enjoy. Don't work too hard. Just make sure you keep it a happy smiley face. But this is not the letter ta. We'll continue from here on, and I hope you're having fun as I am. also enjoying this. So please make sure that you do about 50 letters, practice of bata and tha. And now we're going to move on to jim. The more you practice, the better you'll get. And I want to indicate some of the common mistakes with the letter jim. Here's how jim is written in naskh with a pen. So this way you could see how I'm writing it. The bottom of the letter jim is a straight line. Okay, just make sure you have that. And now I want to indicate, whenever I ask students to draw a gene, if they do it from their memory, they would do this. They would actually round out the letter. This this is not the Nas calligraphy or the Quranic calligraphy that we're looking at, Arabic calligraphy. You could do something similar in what's called the Farsi or Urdu script, but and if you look at it, this G is actually a letter or number two, just upside down. So if you do that, that's wrong. All right. So isn't it pretty cool? We sometimes don't even pay attention to what we're doing, but you're drawing number two upside down. The correct way to do it is to stretch that straight line and actually have the header on top a little bit longer. Now, some people, they see the header and then they just make it, I don't know what they do. Don't worry about it if you're making mistakes. We could just laugh at it. Um, so we'll continue. So let me try to show you how we hold a calligraphy pen. Same way that you're holding onto it, okay, with that 1 o'clock horizontal line, and then this is one of the harder things to do for a lot of students, and I'm trying to show you spacing the letter where I'm straightening it out. Okay, so the curve is there. So if you combine these 3 or 4 steps, you have the letter G. Now you could do it in a swoosh, or you could do it, by lifting pens. There is this common misconception, this number 2, and then the straight line that goes straight, 3. A common misconception that people have about calligraphy is that it's done without lifting the pen. That's actually not true. A lot of times calligraphers lift up the pen and correct their mistakes by going back to these letters. Okay, so don't round out the bottom half of your jim, that letter up on top. This is not jim, actually, by the way, if you're looking at top, it's jim. So here's first step first. We draw the header, the top part, and then we go from the middle of the letter, and then all the way down. And that's at an angle. You could always fix it with using the tip of the nib, and that line's always straight. Okay, so do look at it. Make sure your hand is steady. Break down the process by dividing it into multiple pieces. Number 1, and then you go almost towards the middle of the header. That's number 2, and stretch out the last line. Number 3. Okay, divide and conquer. Make it smaller steps to be successful. And the thin line that's indicated with the letter G, that's going to come with practice. But make sure you're practicing. That's the big thing. So I salute you for being here and making sure that you're striving. All right. So I'm trying to get my hand warmed up too, and hopefully I'm improving my writing as I'm trying to type up the letter or write kha. That's the third letter. And 90% of calligraphy, as I'm fixing this, 90% of the calligraphy here or anywhere is actually holding the pen right, holding the nib. And the thin line indicate how I'm holding the nib, and the thick line is also indicating how I'm holding the nib. All right, so you make sure you have the mastery of this as we're moving towards some of the mistakes or some of the writings of the students, so we could laugh at their work and make ourselves feel better. It's a therapy session as well. I'm just kidding. I love my students. So this is a wavy pattern. He done a good job of getting the header. Um, and then the lines are thin. But if you look at the thick line at the bottom, it's pretty nice. But it just, I hope he had extended that bottom line. That would be pretty sweet. But it's a pretty nice gem. The only one other thing that I want to indicate is don't get too close to the top part, that you don't indicate the like the neck part. There's separation between the letter's top part and the stomach. Now here's what we called about the round gene. It's almost like a big square, right? If you look at the letter, the gene in Nas is supposed to be actually longer. It should be extended. It should stretch down, and they've done a really nice job of writing the header. So it's very linear, horizontal. So that's kudos to them for doing a great job. I just wish they had slightly made it longer. So I'm pointing out the depth of the letter. Should be a little bit, maybe one more box further down. And that would have been good. But the dots are awesome. I'm loving the square dots or a rhombus. Okay, and then the line extends out slightly further than the header. Okay, so make sure you have that. Keep practicing. Awesome. Okay, now we're off to the letter Dal, or the Da letter. This is a very sensitive topic and a very sensitive area that I teach. Make sure you do not do this. Angular, Da, and slightly more round Da. These are the two common mistakes that people do. Now what you're really doing, and this should enable you to kind of never do that again, and I'm going to try to do it to the best of my ability to teach you to avoid mistakes. And what could be better than to show you each time you do the letter dal like that, you're actually making fun of these twin brothers who have, you know, their noses. People are very sensitive about their noses, so make sure you don't do that to them, okay? Don't make fun of these people. The first one is here, the letter dal. Don't do that. That's not, that's very improper. And the second one I want to point out, the round nose, that you've done a very poor job to this, poor person. We'll continue with calligraphy as I'm entertaining you. But the idea is just be aware of this. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. I'm having fun, but I want to get back to the lesson too. So I want to start out with pointing out the two mistakes, angular and then slightly just round dal. These are both extremes. The letter dal, if you look at it, now you're going to never look at it the same way. Or I hope you're not looking at people's noses the same way, is indicated slightly different. So here we start. Okay, I hope you don't quit on me because this is totally weird calligraphy lesson that you're having. I hope you're enjoying the practice and the narration here as well. So the letter down has two parts. The first one kind of goes down below, and then the second one is very simply a horizontal line. Now both of them have just slight, very like faint, little chisel edge to it. You see how I'm starting it with just slight nook to it, and that sen or the nook, you would have to practice. The more you practice, don't make it too harsh or too hard. It's not a triangle. It's similar to a triangle if you look at it, but the line as it goes uh, further down, it gets slightly thin. But don't make the common mistakes the two mistakes that we talked about. And obviously, I'm just trying to teach you um, in a way that you would remember these things. So the noses or the teeth or the smiley face. This is how the dal is written. Go down slightly. Okay, so it's almost like a triangle. So you're going downhill, that's number one. And I like to start from the left side and go to the right. And it's easier for me to do that. You could just continue with it, that's fine too. From right side to left as you finish. But this is the dividing point right there. Now I want to show you some of my student work, and we talked about this earlier. So this kind of indicates right there they haven't really picked up on all the details, right? So it looks similar to the one that I showed you before. They didn't really pick up on the detail of the letter, and that's fine because this is somebody who's actually doing calligraphy for the first time, Arabic calligraphy, in their life. They have no background in this language or writing style, and that's not looking down at them. That's just what we do know. So this was some of my students who have never touched calligraphy pens or have seen Arabic calligraphy. So again, this is the letter Dal, which is the next letter indicated with a dot. Same idea, same form. So at this point, I think we're going to continue with about 50 letters, Dal and Dal. Try to practice and beware of those two mistakes. Okay, let's get started. I want you to keep practicing these letters. And this is not a speed contest, so take your time, practice as I show you another one. Practice is how you're going to learn this. This is not a class where you could just watch a video and learn. Okay, you have to have a feel for these letters. Now here, obviously, you could see they didn't really finish up the letter. The bottom horizontal line should come in, which we have indicated here. That should be stretched out. All right, so last form, last abjad, Ra and Za. They're essentially same form indicated by or differentiated by the dot. So these are the two common mistakes that people make. One I call the reclining problem, right? If you look at it, how the top Ra and the bottom looks, one is angular, it almost looks like a chair. So that's not a good chair. I mean, we'll put some cushions there. But don't make that mistake of making a chair out of your Ra. And this other problem seems a little bit complex, right? What is that? I don't know. Let me work on this one. So all right, just hang in there. I'll show you what. I'll get to the bottom of this. No, this is not a man eating a giant donut. It's actually a swimming pool, and they're going down the slope, the slide. All right, so don't make your Ra just sliding downhill. Okay, that's a close image of my thumb. You can see I've cut my nails. All right, let's continue with Ra and Za. So these are the two ones. It's actually a two-step process. The first one is that you go down slightly, and then the second one is that slant going downhill, the slide. Okay, that's most people get the slide right, but they don't get the slant, the top part. Okay, so you're going to be the lucky few who are going to make it right, inshallah. So let's see how we do it with a calligraphy pen. So it's almost slightly larger than a dot, that top part. You just kind of go down and then look at that, the bottom part. And I did it a little bit fast. I'll try to slow it down. Makes it look easy, but you have to practice. You're actually going to twist your pen here slightly, and I'll show you the detail. You don't have to go back and look at it. I'll keep practicing. You see how I'm doing this? You're twisting your nib. That's what you're doing. You're twisting the nib, and you'll get a feel for it. As you twist it, it will become a thin line. I didn't do a good job on the fourth one. So, and practice that part. So practice these two parts separately. maybe practice the top slightly more than a dot, that part 20 times, and then practice the bottom part about 20 times and see if you could twist that bottom raw. Now, I must say this at this point, if you're working hard and you got the pen in your hand, don't give up. This is one of the hardest letter. I think even harder than Jim, Ha, Kha, that form. I didn't do a good job here. But that's actually harder than the other letters. So I feel this, if you could master this one, kudos to you. So keep working, keep trying, and don't give up. The magic is in twisting that pen towards the bottom, and that's why you have the chiseled nib. This would allow you to do the ra and zaz in a perfect manner. All right, let's bring in some work by students, some practice sessions that I had with them. And this is obviously, I enjoy their work. And it lets me teach you how to do it, or some of the common mistakes and how to do it right. So again, you'll see that this is one of the more difficult letter, and students, some of the other letters, they were very close, or they were very good at it. This letter, this looks more like a dal or the da. So you'll see that they're having difficulty as well. So you're not the only one if you're having difficulty. But the bottom line is this: you have to just keep on trying. So now this one, ra and za, almost looks like a dal to me, right? A dal and zal, the previous two letters. But it's actually, so they have the form right, it's just they don't have, it doesn't slide the way it should be on the za or zain here. So it's the top part is a little too thick. I think it's supposed to be small, slight indicator. And I'll try to, I don't know, let me try to do it here again so you see it. That's it. The first part is almost like a nukta or dot, and then you stretch the part. And then the second part goes at an angle, and they kind of lost that angle there. So I want you to practice about 50 each, ra and za, and we're coming to a conclusion on these letters. Here's another work that I have for you to show. They kind of went down, just like their slide, but they don't have the top part. Actually, they have the top part, but not the slides. So make sure you have the top part and then the bottom that slides down as well. This way you have the full form, number one, and then number two that's going down. All right, this is a separation mark in the middle where the pen starts to shift and it twists at the end. All right, keep working hard. We're here to help, all right? Keep going. So I congratulate you. This is the end of the first in a big series of the class, the program, and I will see you in the other series at this point.